Good morning. I'm so happy today to introduce you to my dear friend, Katie Collins. I've known her for many years, and she was my middle daughter's first grade teacher. What a blessing that was to our whole family when Katie came in as a professional, but she's just such a loving teacher. And I think that was first grade, but also you taught kindergarten for many years. So Katie, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your professional life as well as your personal life and your life with the Lord, and then we'll get into the legacy questions.
Great.
Welcome.
Oh, it's so good to be here, Sue. Thank you so much for inviting me once again to your table, even though we're doing it virtually.
Yep.
And yeah, I am a mother of four, three biological and one adopted.
Mhm.
I'm married to my wonderful husband for almost 40 years, and our life has been the Lord's.
Mm.
Um, Started off not truly walking, and yet by the grace of God, here we are. And He has just been paramount in my relationship with my husband and our children. And well, I can truly say that the Lord has navigated our steps intentionally, and we have only drawn closer to Him throughout the years. I was an educator, retired now. Yes, loved first grade, and then went to kindergarten for the next 18 years. And
Wow.
kinder was actually what first grade used to be. And
Oh.
just loved being able to teach those little ones how to read and just to participate in the world around them. And somewhat correlated with my spiritual life, actually.
What do you mean?
Uh, well, through the reading process, I taught kids how to look at a picture, and because every picture told a story, and
Mm.
by virtue of the picture, you could pick out details and think of like vocabulary that they might come onto. Like if there's a red ball in the picture, you might come across the words red or ball.
Mm.
And with that also came a keen intentional piece on my part to do the same in the world around me, to pick up clues on people and especially how God was working in my life. And rather than me writing the book or the story, I was more aware of how God was writing my story and how I was to be involved with it. And
Can you
so
give an
ever,
example? Can you give an example? Because this is a beautiful metaphor, but it may not translate to everybody.
well, every picture tells a story in writing and in reading for a little kinder kid turned into every person has a story
Mm.
in my life. Everyone has a story, and I wanted to become more a part of everyone's story rather than they in mine. So investing more intentionally into people, um, having more personal eye contact, becoming a better listener than just a teacher telling all the time.
Mm.
Um, and just being in the moments, rather than getting out my lesson plan and writing it all out and wanting everything to go my way. It was more His way.
Mm.
And so I use that analogy a lot. Everyone has a story,
Yes.
and being in the moments are so much more pivotal now that I have seen God's faithfulness through our lives, and the joy that it brings to be a part of someone's moments rather than it's all about me.
I want to
So
go. I want to go back to your first paragraph that you said, where you said you weren't truly walking, but now you are. What was the pivotal moment in making that change? Walking with the Lord is what I mean.
oh gosh, well, you were a part of that moment when Bethany was in first grade. God had just brought so many things together for me. Uh, the presence of beautiful Christian women, and at school and in our kids' youth and sports activities, and also that our children were not receiving the support spiritually that I was hearing others were, and because of the church that we were attending. And although we were very pivotal in that church and the education of the youth at that time, the Bible had never been a part of our lives.
Hmm.
And
And you saw
we
that
were
is
at,
the main difference,
yeah,
what you were receiving in your children as well. Wow.
what we were asked to teach the Bible. And for the very first time, I began to teach it. And the Lord just stirred in me this longing, this hunger. And so, yeah, that was the piece. It was the Bible. It was the Word of God that became so real and so precious to me.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. You bet.
And that's when I got to know you better too, because you moved over to my church, so I got to see you more often.
Yes.
And that was great. What legacy do you want to pass down to those you know and love? I could probably tell everybody what your legacy is because you're so wonderful, but I want you to hear what you said.
No, well, I think it kind of ties to what I was just talking about, that I am known. I think about what a legacy is. It's where you went, what you did, the things you accomplished, your failures, your
Successes.
successes, yeah, and what people remember you by. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think about the people that have gone before me, and what kinds of little vignettes flip through my mind when I think of them. And I wonder, what will my grandkids, what will my children, what will others see in my little slideshow that goes across their mind concerning me? And I'd like them to know that I was in their moments, that it wasn't about me, and that I gave intentional time, and listened to them, and purposed whatever moment that they were in, I was a part of.
Mm.
And I'd like them to know that I cared, and that I tried to help and be empathetic towards that. I've been told I'm more empathetic than most, to the point of being a Pollyanna, but I don't.
There could be
I
worse
don't.
things.
I don't see that as a bad thing. Most,
Yeah.
but finding a bug under the rock with my grandkids, or reading Brown Bear, or those, it's so precious to be in those moments, and reading devotions with my 96-year-old mother-in-law, learning about her past, and just being there for her. Everybody has a story, even the homeless person. I think of them as a little kinder kid once, and what happened in their story. And I've learned to not think about people and how they act, or what they look like, or what they're saying, but to remember that they have a story, and their story's not over yet, and to pray more than think about them. A wise man that I know, Leon, shared that thoughts are like birds. They fly over our heads, and we can't help them often from coming, but if we allow them to build a nest on our head and dwell on those thoughts, then we've got a big mess. And so I have tried desperately not to allow myself to get into that temptation to think about others and talk about them, and rather than to remember, their story's not over yet.
Mm.
And
so by think about them, you by think about them, you mean, what I'm understanding that you mean is that you would dwell on perhaps the negative, like if you see a
yeah,
homeless person, or you see
yeah,
someone who's acting out,
uh-huh.
and you think, wow, they must have
Judgment,
had, what happened to them? Because they were somebody's little precious child, hopefully at one
yeah.
point in their life, or maybe not. And maybe that was that is the reason,
Mm-hmm.
and meet their eyes and greet them. And I know you work with the homeless in a certain capacity. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
What does that look like in your life, and you and Kirk?
Well, we have, for my husband and I, for 20 years, were able to bring the overflow women and children to our church. And through that, I just really was so always marveled at just the individuals that were there. It was not the mass,
Hmm.
it's the individuals that were there, and they were so precious. And everybody had a story.
Mhm.
And if you took the time to look them in the eyes, and, granted, there were, difficult people. It was hard to love the unlovable, but there were always redeeming qualities in people. It
Mhm.
just took time to find them. And, what I meant too with thinking and about things or people, and would come judgment. And
Right.
we always want to try and wrap them up in a little box and say, oh, they're this way because of this
Mhm.
or that. And I don't know their story,
Mhm.
and God does. I'm involved with pro-life as well, and standing outside of Planned Parenthood and praying. I don't judge. I'm just wondering, I think where these girls were 10 years ago, they were bouncing a basketball in a recess
Yes.
court. And
Mhm.
where are they going to be in 10 years from now?
Mhm.
Will they be a mom? Will they be a high powered professional person? And yet knowing that, you know, when I was their age, I am not who I was back then, and
Mhm.
their story's not over again
Yeah. Yeah.
or over yet. And
Mhm.
so, when was the last time somebody prayed for them?
Right.
Their parents have sent them off to this college town to go to school, and yet, do they know everything that they are doing? I don't know. Is anyone praying for them? So, it's my opportunity to invite Jesus into my thoughts. To Jesus, I pray for their story, and that they come to know him personally, as I know people did for me back
Mhm.
then as
Mhm.
well. So,
Um, what changes did you personally have to make, or obstacles did you need to overcome to make this really a legacy of being present, a legacy of um, suspending judgment? I think that's something we all, even though we may not consider ourselves very judgmental,
mhm.
I don't think I'm that judgmental until I am, and
Yeah.
and then you feel self-righteous or defensive about it until God shows you who you really are, or
Amen.
shows me my sin, and then I go, oh yeah. So going back to the question, what changes did you have to make, or obstacles, or both, did you have to overcome
Yeah.
to become? Because I think you're still becoming, like we all are.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Totally a work in progress. That is for sure. No, I think that intentional piece, going back to with the kinder kids, having them look for details in pictures. I try and find details in my life, what I can do, and not wasting time. Like, two places that I have learned to pray heartily is the checkout line.
Oh,
Especially on a Friday or Saturday night in a college town, when the youth are buying up all sorts of things that could wreak havoc in their life.
yes.
I could sit there and judge, but I don't. I pray for them.
Mhm.
And I pray even when I'm not in that situation with the people around me. In the checkout line, it's a great place to pray for the people around you. And
Mhm.
instead of looking at the front cover of People magazine or Inquirer or whatever, um, another great place to pray is pumping gas. I mean, it could be wasted time,
Mhm.
but it's not, and I seek them out. Praying continuously is finding moments to invite Jesus into, rather than just go to him when it's on my time.
Mm.
Uh, I remember one day you were talking to me, and you were talking about bringing Jesus, doing just that, bringing Jesus into your life and to sharing with others. And I remember you saying, "Yeah, I just went to my neighbor and asked if I could borrow some ketchup, and just threw in the Lord," and that's
I don't remember that.
oh, I will always remember that. I don't look at a bottle of ketchup without relating that to you. It's just bringing Jesus to the everyday, to the moments. And I definitely need to give up the steering wheel in my life and allow him to do that, to keep my mouth shut and allow other people to speak, to allow God to speak, to be still. That has become my verse for life, is to be still and know that he is God. And that
What
brings great peace.
it does bring great peace when I ever sit still long enough to hear him.
Yeah.
Can you share, I'm not sure if you can, it's not part of the question, but can you share a recent statement that God shared with you um, in a time of stillness, just to encourage people to be still?
Mm. Oh, our grandson was born prematurely at 28 weeks.
Wow.
And to see his whole arm go through my son-in-law's ring is just a picture of total trust. And I had to just bow down to his sovereignty through all of that. And I look at our little guy now, who's almost 18 months old, and he's just a miracle of life. But the gut-wrenching trust that it took to go through that was just incredible. And then just not long ago, I had to do a lot of the same, dealing with my own heart and purpose in trying to help a friend in donating a kidney to her. We just had so many setbacks, and she was so desperate, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And once again, I just had to lay it all down to the Lord and give it all to him. And it was only through that, just really those deep times where I just clung to his hand, that I was able to be at greater peace than I've ever known. And
was it gut wrenching because you were afraid, or was it gut wrenching because you were afraid you couldn't help her?
both. Gut wrenching because I wanted so much for this to have a happy ending, and I wasn't sure that was the ending he wanted.
Right. We're not in control, are we?
No, but to actually live all of those Bible verses with capital letters rather than just reading them on text, to actually feel the word faith, to taste the word trust. Those were paramount times. I don't long for the experience or all of the things that were happening at my time during that, but I do long for the personal relationship that I had with him.
Right. I never long for the grief, but while I'm in the
Yeah.
grief, I want to okay, take advantage of this, Lord, because I don't
Yeah.
want to come back to it anytime soon.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make it clear for the audience, people who are listening, that you were a blood match with a neighbor who needed a new kidney, so you volunteered. How did you find out you were? Was she asking for blood matches, or these? I don't even know what they're called, kidney matches?
I had known this gal, we've known each other for 40 years, but hadn't connected with her in a long time. And I heard through the grapevine that she had already gone through 2 donors and didn't turn out. And so, it wasn't something I jumped on. It was just on my ticker tape that God kept playing over and over and over again on my mind. And I finally just said, hey, how's it going? I hear that you blah, blah, blah. And, God just totally orchestrated the next steps. And within a month, I knew that I was a match. And
Wow.
yet we had tons of setbacks.
Oh.
And it just once again, okay, Lord, I love doing these things for people, and why are all of these things happening?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it
I know
was,
it's kind of like when we're willing to surrender to God, why is it so difficult sometimes?
uh-huh, yeah.
But
And yet,
mhm.
I would not be who I am right now in this moment if I had not gone through everything that I had gone with her,
Hmm.
and vice versa with she is slowly drawing closer to the Lord, and so full of health,
Hmm.
loving life,
Praise the Lord.
and yes, praise God. And in his timing, I look back, it couldn't have been any better time for us to have that surgery.
No kidding.
Yeah, truly. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just remarkable.
Hmm.
So,
Wow.
yeah, that's God, just to be still and take in that breath instead of exhausting fretfulness, and sighing and why this and why that. Just take a breath and know that He's got us in the palm of His hand.
Mm. I remember seeing you at the grocery store in line. You were behind me, and I called out and I said, "Hey, I heard you gave a kidney to your neighbor." And you said, "What was it? What did you say? Something about a backup?" Or,
Oh, I share your spare.
yeah, share your spare. And I called out, "Well, I would think maybe of giving her a casserole, but you really went the second, third, fifth mile by giving a kidney." And
Um,
you just laughed, and I just thought, wow, there's Katie, my friend. And thank you so much. Is there any other wisdom that you would like to share, leave with our audience today? Because
wow.
it's already been so fabulous.
Now, wisdom just comes from the Lord. I
Amen.
would say find Him in your everyday and find Him in your devotions. Read the Word. The Word speaks, but come with that willing heart,
Mm-hmm.
that He can only give. It's a heart issue, always a heart issue.
Yeah, we have to say, well, yeah, I'll read the Bible, but then I actually have to obey it. So maybe you don't want to go that
Absolutely.
far.
Yes.
Katie,
Yeah.
it's been a delight, and thank you so much. And I look forward to sharing you with my friends and family who are listening today, and also a recipe. So send me a recipe.
Oh,
And
I
I know
will.
I know your magic with the crock pot because you taught kindergarten for 400 years and yet still fed a family. So we'll
Oh,
chat back again later, and thank you so much.
okay. Okay. God bless you, girl. Take
God bless
care.
you.